Altria is scheduled to release first quarter earnings on Tuesday, April 29th, before the market open. For Altria Group, in the previous quarter, they reported revenue of $5.11 billion, beating estimates by $59.68 million. They reported earnings per share of $1.29, beating by 1 penny. For this quarter, they're expecting $4.62 billion in revenue and $1.19 per share in earnings. Over the last 90 days, no analysts have raised estimates and 6 analysts have lowered estimates. Altria meets or beats analysts' 1-year forward estimates 100% of the time. When looking at the Altria price chart, we can see that Altria sold off during early April with the tariff announcements, but it has recovered to about 3% off its all-time high back at the beginning or end of March. Since early March, we are seeing relatively flat price action, but one of the things I'm noticing is we have less momentum accompanying that. That'll put pressure on continued upward price rises. Altria has been trading above its 5-day simple moving average. It closed below that on Friday. Altria is trading above its 20-day moving average, its 50-day moving average, and the 200-day moving average. We are seeing strength in the RSI, currently sitting at 55.4. For the PPO, we did see a signal line crossover to the upward side a few days ago, and we are trading above the midpoint. When we compare relative strength to the SPX, it is showing that we do have relative strength, and the momentum is just slightly below the midpoint, so the momentum is slightly less than that of the SPX. We can also see really good accumulation over the last year or so. We do see positive money flow at the moment. When we compare to the SPY performance over the last year, we can see that Altria has outperformed by 30.64. When we compare it to the consumer staples sector, it's also outperformed 32.15%. But when we look at its own industry, it's actually underperforming its industry by 11.13% over the last year. When you look at the 5-year trend chart that uses various exponential moving averages to compare long-term performance, we can see that it is showing pretty strong performance. In the midterm, over the next few months, we can also see that it has positive performance, and over the short term, except for this blip we had in early April, it's actually been performing fairly well even in the short term. When we take a look at some of the key metrics for Altria, we can see that they are slightly discounted to the sector with a forward PE of 11.03 times compared to the sector of 16.39 times. When we look at their growth for EPS, they're sitting at about 3.55 for the next year compared to the sector of 6.67. Revenue growth is slightly down over the next year compared to the sector at 3.09. When we look at the net margins for Altria, They sit at 55.1 compared to the sector average of 4.37. Finally, we'll look at fast graphs for Altria. We can see that they have a blended PE of 11.24 times. They have an EPS yield of 8.9%, a dividend yield of 7%. Over the time frame shown, which is 10 years in the past and 3 years in the future, we can see that they have an adjusted operating earnings growth rate of 6.33%. Fast Graphs calculates their fair value ratio to be 15 times and their normal PE ratio at 13.84 times. The black line is their current PE of 11.24. The blue line is the normal PE, basically what the market normally prices Altria at. And this yellow line here is the calculated fair value. If we look at the current trading price and compare that to the fair value, Fast Graphs indicates that that would be about a 70.6% total annual return. If we go from the current price to even its normal PE, we'd be looking at 51.25% total annual return. We can see over the next 3 years they're expected to grow 4% this year, 4% earnings in 2026, and 3% in 2027, according to the analyst estimates. I want to thank you for watching and hope the earnings preview was helpful. Talk to you again soon. Have a great day. Thank you and trade well.